Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way.
Your lips spoke softly. You seem to like me.
I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Pitch Perfect 2 is over. You know, before this podcast, I had diarrhea for 7 years. But yes, this is terrible.
Guys, there's going to be some haters out there. They're going to look at us, Team USA, and be like, why is the most talented one Australian?
Who run the world? Girls! Who run this mother?
The way these girls have broken down every single barrier in their path.
Girls! Who run the world?
What an inspiration to girls all over the country who are too ugly to be cheerleaders.
Who run the world? Girls! We run this mother. Girls!
Andy, it's Pitch Perfect 2 time. Pitch Perfect 2 time. This is the sequel to, guess what? Pitch Perfect. Now, for those of you who didn't tune in last week, I have irrational love, maybe irrational, unironic love for Pitch Perfect. My love for Pitch Perfect 2 does not extend possibly quite so far. But I said a number of times, I can't wait for you to watch it, Andy, because Andy, you know, has not seen either 2 or 3 at that point. And so today we get to find out, How to Hit with Andy. I don't know, do you want to spill it now before we do the rating and stuff, or do you want to keep your powder dry, so to speak?
Well, I'll just say this, and then we'll kind of move into it. It doesn't work as well as the previous film. I mean, I don't hold the first film in as high a regard as you do. I think it was fun and it was entertaining. This film was less so, and it felt a little more strained, like they were trying to give us more.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Why we're doing this series? We're doing this series because we're doing big franchises.
Franchises and series. And
I think this one has some high points.
Well, I mean, this one does have high points. Obviously, it's a very popular series, so there's a lot of reason to talk about this franchise. There is... I like that Elizabeth Banks, who I've always loved, is really kind of her and her producing. Who's the person she produces with? Max Handelman.
Yeah, it's her partner.
They have this company, Brownstone Productions, and put this film together, and the whole franchise. Like, they've basically been shepherding this entire franchise. And while Elizabeth isn't going to come back to direct the third film, she is going to be, intrinsically involved because of her connection to this whole franchise, and bringing in another female director for it. Like, I think that there's a lot of strength of having Elizabeth Banks on board to kind of create this thing. And so, as an actress who I've always enjoyed, her directing career has been thin, but I do enjoy knowing that she's also enjoys getting behind the camera and really doing some stuff. Yeah, I think so too. And she absolutely demonstrates the level of confidence and butt confidence, real confidence. You know what it is, Pete? It's Aka confidence.
It's Aka confidence. Oh God, here it goes.
Here it comes.
Okay.
All right. Well, this movie was rated PG-13 when it was released for innuendo and language. In other words, naughty talk. Sexy naughty talk.
Yeah.
And diarrhea.
And also diarrhea.
My lips, my car seat. I'm Ken, your Barbie. Right place, right time. Yeah, you magnetize my mind.
Okay, Andy. So, given all of that, what do you think it does to step up the movie from number one?
Well, okay, so leveling up. What are they doing with this one to amp things up? What they largely do is repeat the entire previous film.
Yes, they do. They repeat the film.
They pretty much they don't learn any lessons in the realm of doing a sequel, and they make a sequel that is essentially a repeat of the last film. Now, in context of things that are happening in there, they might be saying, "Hey, is there something here that we can do to kind of kick this up a notch?" Like at the beginning, we had the performance. At the beginning of the first film, we had the performance, and then the vomit, intense vomit. In the beginning of the second film, we have the performance. And then it's a stage gaff where clothing rips open and Fat Amy's genitalia is exposed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I guess, the way that they're saying, let's level it up by doing things like this. And so, I don't know. I guess in the scope of what they're doing to really kind of amp the story up, I don't feel there's anything in it that feels like they found strong ways to do something bigger or more surprising or newer. It just feels like essentially a rehash.
Andy, they were at regionals last time, and now they're at international. Now they've gone across the pond. That's a leveling up. That took an airplane.
A whole airplane. And we get a brief shot of them walking through the streets of Copenhagen.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
But they're essentially at a cappella Woodstock, more like maybe a cappella Lilith Fair.
Yeah, that was a question I have for you as somebody from the world of a cappella. Is there an actual world finals of anything like this, or is this a fictionalized thing that they made up for the film? Because the last one, the ICCAs, was a real thing. Yeah. I was like, I don't know if this is real or not, and I figured you would.
There is an a cappella world championship and it's the international championship of college a cappella. It is a thing. I didn't get to go there, so sorry, me.
What was it around when you were there, or?
Yeah, it's been.
Okay, so it has been around.
It's a real thing. It's everything. It's worlds. I mean, everybody talks about it. The big groups who go there, but because once you get cut, you're less interested. I've never been to a worlds competition, so.
Okay, the world finals here, though, it didn't feel collegiate to me.
No,
like the Sound Machine, they don't look like college students.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And so that's why I was like, is the world finals, maybe it's just a broader thing, like where countries, like it felt almost like they were doing that, because it's not like, I don't know, it's not anything official sounding. It's just called the world finals. So it just felt very fakey movie. It felt like a riff on the Eurovision contest is what
it totally did. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly right. The official one is the International Championship of Collegiate a cappella. And so, I mean, that's the thing that exists. In terms of worlds, that's part of a narrative, I think, that is used in the movie for, let's just because we have to get the girls out of collegiate competition because they've been banned because of the genitalia. Because of genitalia. That's where we are. But there is some mix. There's probably somebody who's more a cappella than me who's going to write us and tell us, oh, the world's is real too. And maybe it is. I've never seen that environment of a cappella. The regionals, the nationals that could look like that. So there you go.
Well, the name was incredibly generic. They just call it the World Finals. So that to me is like a clue that this is completely fictionalized for a movie.
Yeah.
Which was fine. It was fine. And as you said, they needed to come up with something that got them out of collegiate competitions because they weren't allowed to do it because of this ban due to the genitalia, which was a complete accident. That whole thing really started this film off on a bad foot for me because I'm like, I don't buy into any of the logic here. It clearly was, an accident where the clothing just happened to rip open. And I don't know. I found that very frustrating, the way that the whole thing started, and the such negativity toward the group and them getting banned and everything. It seemed so written.
Yeah, I struggle with that too. I think I think the music performances in an effort to, I'll again say level up the music performances. There's something to this idea that they're taking the group and they're using that sort of manufactured, sort of unnatural chaos to somehow communicate how the group is kind of falling apart, how Beca is being distant from the group, how it's not as cohesive an experience. And that part comes across through the narrative of the film, but largely not to me through the music itself. The music, whatever their intention was, it's just not as good. The performances are just not as good until I think the finale performance, which I quite like. So they have the first one is just so over the top that it does it. To your point, it feels absolutely written. It feels like they didn't effectively communicate where the Bellas would be after the last movie. I think opening with such chaos was a bridge too far for me. I didn't buy it. And this gets to my central trouble with the film, which is use of Fat Amy in this film. Rebel Wilson's part. What'd you think of how they used Rebel Wilson in this movie?
Through the film, through both films, really, there has been a history that they have latched onto of taking an overweight actor, comedic actor, and using them to comedic effect because of their weight. Like we saw it with John Candy and Chris Farley. And I mean, it's definitely been a thing that has happened throughout, film history. It's just like, hey, if they're overweight, what sort of jokes can we do to kind of build on that? I mean, the Farrelly brothers did that with, Shallow Hal. It's find ways to make the fat person funny just because they're fat. Melissa McCarthy, there's another example. They definitely do that in the first film. It didn't feel as forced, and it didn't feel as as heavily overused. And it felt like when you have something like Bridesmaids, where Melissa McCarthy delivers really an interesting performance, not just because of her size, but because there's just something different and weird about the character anyway. It doesn't have to just be related to weight. And then I think oftentimes comedic writers, they latch onto it just because of the weight. And with Rebel Wilson, I think what some of the stuff that I was enjoying so much in the last film were those weird Australia jokes about wrestling a dingo and an alligator and things like that. There were those moments that made her character funny. And in this film, I felt like the bulk of it was just because of her weight. And it just started feeling like they're pushing it to a point where it's just like, come on, can you do something else with this character? And, she gets her love story here with Bumper. And so there's that whole thing. But even that feels like, let's figure out a way to put a romance in here for her too, because it's funny when we put the overweight person in a crazy relationship like that. And so it just ended up feeling like, every time she came on screen, it was like, what are we going to do with her this time to be gross and, just use crass humor in a way that just, makes people cringe.
Right. And let me say, I'm all about crass humor. I think one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in movies was Jeff Daniels on the toilet in the ski house. I mean, it's incredible. I'm all about poop humor. It's fine. I feel like this was...
You open the show with diarrhea,
this
after all.
Diarrhea, and here I am. But I think that this I really struggle with this one in particular because I don't care for making that character, Fat Amy, Rebel Wilson's character, more of a star of this movie than I think the story deserves her to be. She's a great secondary character, right? She's a great friend of the character. And I think this movie, and I'm going to spoil it for you, leading into Pitch Perfect 3, they're working to make this more and more of a buddy comedy, right? With Fat Amy and Beca, and it doesn't play for me. The story itself becomes weaker and weaker and weaker as we go through the trilogy, and I don't care for it. I don't think it's as funny. I think it's so over the top and so forced. The humor, the writing becomes so forced that it's less interesting.
In context of that, I do think that is a struggle with the script as a whole, where every character who is given some sense of a kind of an archetype or a caricature of who that particular character is, it's amped up here. So it's not just Fat Amy, but certainly Fat Amy gets a lot of it. But we see that with Chloe as well. With suddenly it's like this whole thing is getting pushed more and more with the possibility of there's this bisexual tendencies with her, but it's like it feels like they're amping that up. It feels like when you're looking at Lily, her stuff gets a little kookier and weirder.
But it seems like her whole role was sort of bifurcated with this with the new character from Guatemala, whose name I have escaped. Yeah, and she's who has some very, very funny lines. I think very funny lines.
I don't think I think that it's painful, everything that they did with her. But same thing with Cynthia. Hey, we have this lesbian character. Let's make all of the stuff just over the top. And I feel like what they did with the characters here, and this is a struggle I think oftentimes with comedy sequels, is they say, hey, people love these crazy characters. Let's use them again, but they're all going to be just a little bit crazier. And everyone take the direction we went with them and turn it up to 11 and give us even more. And that's kind of where we end up. So it's not just Fat Amy, but it's all of the characters. They push them to a place where all of them I struggle with even more. Even people like Benji, there are things with him I'm just like, is anybody that inept at having having words come out of their mouth? There are things that just kind of keep happening that I found very frustrating.
And they took Bumper, and I don't know why they brought him back. I know they manufactured this relationship with Fat Amy, and they thought it would be funny to show the rise in the first movie and the fall in this movie, I guess, by making him campus security and wanting to still be popular, but it didn't play for me. The whole relationship didn't play. Maybe it would have been funny had he not left the movie in Pitch Perfect, the first one, to go do his thing. Like, that was a fine exit for that character, and they needed to find something new to do. It didn't work for me.
I will say the one thing that really worked for me with Bumper in this film was when he shows up in the old group, the group of the old singers.
That might have been funny. Like that might have been funny alone.
Well, it was funny anyway. Like the tone hangers, like that was the funniest thing to see that, oh, he's actually part of this group of these older people who just can't let go.
And he was
I thought that was hilarious.
So sure that John Mayer had an affair with Tina Turner.
Everything about
good, yes.
him with the tone hangers was perfect. If that was all that we had of Bumper, that would have been perfect. Like, that would have been a great way to bring him back in a way where it's just like, yes, we want him to be just in this group of these old people.
I think you said it just right. Like, they sucked the joy out of what we could have gotten with that character by making it too much more of him. That was too much. And I think not having I didn't need any of that storyline of Fat Amy and Bumper together. I didn't need any of it. I didn't need with a boat scene. I didn't need any of it.
That again speaks to this whole turning it up to 11. What was funny in the first film? What can we amp up? That conversation between Bumper and Fat Amy in the first film, when he says, "Oh, should we just have sex now?" or whatever, and she's just like, sometimes I think it would be fun to take meth, crystal meth, but then I think maybe not. Yeah. That was really funny in the first film, and it felt like, okay, there's a thing there. Let's amp it up to 11 for the next one. And just like every single thing from the first film, they do that with, and it just ends up all feeling so forced and written. And I don't know. I was honestly surprised to remember that Kay Cannon also wrote this script solo, because so much of it felt like they brought somebody else on to amp it up.
Yeah, I'm with you. It feels like this was not of the same pen, this movie. It was just chaos and just pushed. Now, I have to say, the things I love about the movie, and I genuinely love them, it's the music, right? I love the bands. I love Das Sound Machine. I think they're great. The tone hangers, you already said, the Bellas. The Treblemakers, I think, are good, though I think they're underused in this movie. Maybe they thought, oh, we already had too much Treblemaker in the first movie, so let's go ahead and dial that down. I think that was a mistake. And the Green Bay Packers is a great, great addition to the riff-off. I think it's very, very funny.
Was there a thing there? Like, I wasn't sure, like, in the world of a cappella, I'm like, is this a thing? Because it just feels like they just said, wouldn't it be funny if we put some football players in here that also happened to be doing a cappella?
No, I think one of them actually wrote Elizabeth Banks about how much they loved the movie on Twitter, and she wrote back and said, let's figure out something to do, and they put him in, and I think it was really funny. I think the guys were great. It was a nice little sort of cameo, and they did the work. Like, they showed up and they sang it, and it was great. The non sort of a cappella piece that I also loved was Keegan-Michael Key. I thought everything in that studio was funny. Everything in that production studio that he did with Dax, and I'm wearing my skinny jeans, take a lap anyway. Like, all of that was awesome for me. That was a real high point in the movie. Tell me you agree, please.
I liked all of that stuff in the studio, like that journey for her. My challenge with it is that it felt, I could see exactly what was happening with it. It felt so telegraphed. Like, we're going to put this here because this is part of the journey. And we're going to spell it out so clearly right here in this pitch where he's saying, who's got something for me? Who's got something for me? Give me this. I need something new. I need something new.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, this is where the story's going to end.
And they end up making a rather anodyne, even after Anna Kendrick gets her mitts on it, a rather anodyne Snoop Dogg Christmas song. It was fine. But I think the problem that I have with it, with the studio stuff, as much as I love the elements, goes back to, I think, their choices with Anna Kendrick and what they're doing with Beca in this movie. I think at some level they decided, you know what, we need to separate, we need to start the mission of separating the identity of Beca from the Bellas. And we're going to do that by getting her a job, this internship that she's always wanted. And I think that is a central decision that causes the story to suffer. Because as soon as we take her and put her in that studio with Keegan-Michael Key, and the fact that Keegan-Michael Key is such a great and sort of show-stopping comedian in this character, I think I start seeing two movies in here. Like, there is a movie where Anna Kendrick is an up-and-coming producer, and we get a kind of Devil Wears Prada of her in studio with the studio head, and it could be an interesting movie all on its own, and it feels like it's such a different thing than Pitch Perfect, and I think I struggle with it. I think it was a mistake to move her in that direction in this movie. I think if they're going to do something like that, it should happen in Pitch Perfect 3 at the end of our sort of spiritual journey of Anna Kendrick, and to do it here actually damages not only this movie, but the third movie too. And you're going to see it.
That's an interesting point. And I guess that makes sense to me. I did think about it as I was watching this, that they chose to set it 3 years after the last film. Like, they went from her freshman year to her senior year. And I guess to a certain extent, it makes sense in context of time, like from 2012 to 2015. Okay, they're jumping across kind of the time she would be in college. Now, the challenge with that is they are shoehorning a lot more into it. And I guess, in context of our earlier conversation, they're leveling it up a little bit. There's something that they're trying to do more by giving her that other aspect to her explorations here. And I suppose in the scope of what she's wanting to do, and as a comparison, what Chloe is not doing, we're getting a sense of these characters and the relationship with a group like this. I mean, this is a college group. They are in this while they're in college, and they may stay in touch as a legacy later in their life. But largely, it's something that they do while they're here in college. And Beca, I feel like she does recognize that. Weirdly, no one else does. And that's, I think, my issue. Part of my big issue with it is it's just like, clearly they all are here for college and they're all getting degrees and going to go do something. But no one cares about that at all, except for Beca, who does see, I need to do something else and I'm going to get this internship. And Chloe, on the flip side, is this person who's just like, I keep failing classes intentionally because I want to stay here so that I can kind of continue this because this is all I have.
Right.
And, I think there's an interesting dynamic there with that person who just can't leave college. I do think that there is that sort of person. But also, I think there's a struggle with creating such a strong bifurcation there in characters, because I don't get a sense that all of the rest of the Bellas are all on Chloe's side. Like I just can't buy into that. Like, I don't think having an internship intrinsically turns into, oh my God, the story has major conflict now. And like that. And I think that's my struggle is I don't see, like, how is that something that completely eliminates anything the Bellas can do?
It doesn't. It's the black and white, the need for that sort of black and white thinking in the movie. Like, they have to and that's what makes it feel so manufactured, is that this conflict is not a human level conflict. It doesn't show any of the nuance that these individual characters would have, because it treats the rest of the Bellas as one entity, one single-minded entity, apart from
goofy characters.
Yeah. And I think that's my problem with it overall.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of characters and how they are used from the first movie, can you give me your thoughts on Aubrey? Now, Aubrey is leading a camp for corporate training, like a ropes and outdoor adventure camp for corporate training. And we get a sequence with her when the Bellas go for their experience with her as their leader. What do you think?
Well, you had told me last week that there would be more Aubrey, and I was like, well, I haven't seen her singing. I'm like, I wonder how they're going to use her. I wasn't really sure on how that was going to play, my first thoughts were I want to go to her camp because all of like the water slides and everything looked ridiculously fun. It's just like I just want to go.
Yeah, I want to go play with her camp. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I don't think there's really much need to have included her again. I mean, it makes sense. Like if you're going to do something like this, if you need to have some way to do bonding, sure, okay. So a former graduate, one of these legacy people, is now running this camp. Okay, I buy it. I just don't know how much it really gave to me. Like I would have been fine to not have her. Like honestly, she should have also been at the end. Like, was she one of the legacy people?
Yeah, she was there
singing at the end.
Yeah,
she was there at the end. Okay, for some reason I didn't remember her. I kept seeing some of these other people, but so anyway, I don't know. She wasn't really necessary. It didn't bug me, but it was just one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't feeling that excited one way or the other about her. But did you like her?
No, I think it was poorly used. I think it was poorly used in a camp. I think it was unfortunate. I didn't understand why she was the person to be there when the opportunity to have another eccentric new introduction of a new character would have been fun. A new isolated character, a new sort of Keegan-Michael Key sort of a character. Here's the camp leader, and we have someone that you might not expect, someone who doesn't connect necessarily very well at the beginning with the rest of the group. Like, I think we could have had another fun comedy performance in this section of the film. And we don't get that because like it just didn't feel like I would ever believe that she would go from where she was to this character. I didn't believe it. Some of that is because her dad, with all the military stuff that they gave us in the beginning, that she was this sort of archetype authoritarian kind of leader of the group. But then she already made the turn at the end. Like she released her control and her power. And I felt like that might have been enough. Like I feel like they actually took her back a few steps by putting her in this role.
Well, the one thing that they do, and the one way I could say there is some logic to it, is she is, in a way, reflecting the afterlife of college Bellas. And to that end, she is essentially an example of Beca and, the person who is doing something other than clinging like the tone hangers to a cappella as her life and said, I'm moving on. I'm going to start a new career. And hey, I didn't think I was going to be running a camp, but here I am and I'm loving it. Like to that end, I can say, you know what, at least there is that sense of it.
And I think they try to do that and continue to try to do that in the subsequent film. And I'm really interested in I am interested in that part, but I don't know if I'm interested in that part of post Bella at the expense of the now Bellas in the movie that I'm seeing, right? And I think that sort of works for that same kind of complaint works for me a little bit writ large with the movie, that they're trying to bring in so much outside the Bella experience at the expense of what we actually are here to see.
Yeah. What
do you think about Haley Steinfeld?
I like Haley Steinfeld. She's a fun actress always. Like I find her screen presence always is kind of a joy. She just brings a positive energy. She clearly knows how to sing. She's got great pipes. And I think that it was fun to not just her, but really just kind of like she is our introduction to this world of legacies. And I thought that was kind of fun seeing Katie Seagal as her mom, who I always enjoy seeing her pop up in things, and we'll have some other interesting legacy cameos at the end. So it was kind of fun to kind of have that world open up for us. And in the scope of a story needing to bring a new voice in, I suppose it works, especially since they needed some way to do it since they couldn't have auditions through this whole nonsense at the beginning of the film.
Yeah, it was a nice loophole. That worked for me.
Yeah. I mean, the loophole works. They get her in there, and she is the one new voice. And to that end, yeah, I think that it plays fine. I didn't have issues with it. I do have a question for you, though, as it relates to the world of acapella and the use of original material, because I'm not exactly sure how that plays in the world of acapella. I mean, and honestly, as I was thinking about it with this film, I'm like, I guess I've never really heard an a cappella group sing original songs. Well, until you get to somebody like Pentatonics, who is, they're doing a lot of their own original material and covers. But like before that, every a cappella group I ever heard was always singing covers in some capacity. And even when David Cross's character comes on for his crazy, weird little thing, like it is this whole like, oh, cannot sing. You are eliminated. You sung original material. How dare you? And I mean, I know as part of the thing they were doing jams or whatever, but still, I wasn't really sure what to make of that, because then at the end, when they sing their original material at the very end, everyone's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Original material. They're really amping it up a lot. They're pushing it into the next level. And I was like, okay, I guess I just don't understand all of this and why it's so impressive. And and that was something I brought all this up because it was part of Haley Steinfeld's character. She's the one who writes this original song. So anyway, question in relation to her character.
Well, the culture of acapella is all about covers, and part of that is because I think as young people in collegiate acapella in particular, right? Collegiate acapella, it all centers around like how much fun it is to try to duplicate as much as you can the sounds that you get on the music that you love. And that becomes the game. It's like the unspoken game of acapella. You go to other groups, you see other concerts, you do a bunch of shared concerts, and you're kind of spreading the tools, like the vocal tools that you have at your disposal to actually recreate stuff that you've already done. And also, songwriting is wicked hard, and it is a very rare skill to find somebody who is a great songwriter who can write a great song and also translate it to a cappella. So I think those are the two competing things. If you take out the fact that most a cappella groups don't have young, fantastic songwriters, what you have is covers, and great, great, great covers. So I think, you get into modern a cappella vocal bands, I don't need both of those things, right? Modern vocal bands, you have people who graduated out of college a cappella, became good songwriters, and now write original music. And I think Pentatonics is a great example of that. You'll note they still do covers because that's so much of their stock and trade, but they do also a lot of original music. Spiral Mouth was one of my very favorite vocal bands in the late 90s and released an incredible album, the eponymous album that has a mix of like Nine Inch Nails covers and originals, and it's extraordinary. But I think because of that culture, you're always going to have a mix of what can I reproduce this impossible thing with my mouth and make it sound legitimate. What do you think? Is that a fair answer? Does that sell you on?
At the end, does it seem like for a competition to suddenly go, holy cow, they're doing something original, is that enough for all the judges to go, oh, well, I might just give them a few extra points because of that?
Well, I don't think
I was like, oh, I didn't know that was something that was that exciting or new.
No, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. Did you believe it? Like, ultimately, when you watched it, did you believe it?
Well, once we get to that, you have to get into the question of like, how much did you like the actual song?
Yeah.
And
this is the song Flashlight by Jessie J, I think, wrote it.
And I think Sia was involved.
Oh, maybe Sia wrote it. Jessie J performed it. That might have been it.
When I was looking at the list for awards for later in the show, I saw Sia as one of the people who had been attached
Sia
to
Furler, Christian Guzman, Jason Moore, and Sam Smith co-wrote the song, and it was performed by Jessie J in the original single and by the Bellas.
Right. It's fine. It didn't completely wow me. And so to that end, I don't know. I guess if I were a judge, I guess I wouldn't care if it was original or not, as long as it was a performance that wowed me. I mean, that really is what it boils down to. And I guess in that sense, it didn't kind of knock my socks off.
Well, I think there's a bigger problem with that whole sequence. And the bigger problem is that I think they would have largely been disqualified as soon as the curtains parted and like 50 other people were on stage, right? I think it's a bridge too far to say that the Bellas includes all generations of past Bellas. So that's the part. I think it makes for a great finale and it's a failed finale that we don't get to see the Bellas get completely disqualified, but it makes for a great sort of cinematic event. And I think it's fun. It's the mother-daughter thing. We get all of these emotional sort of threads detangled and tied up, and that part works for me. I like the sisterhood thing. I like watching how they all come together, and I like the lights. I'm a sucker for lights in the dark stadium, the flashlights. Like, I'm really a sucker for all of that stuff. So,
and you get Robin Roberts suddenly showing up as a former Bella.
So great.
And CJ Perry. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Well, that was odd to see them.
Yeah,
so, and what's her name from the first movie also is there.
Cameo Palooza, right? Like it really is significant.
It was fun.
So, all of that, I think, worked for me.
It works in the scope of what they're trying to do for the story. Like, let's bring all the legacy, and in the scope of like what I was saying about that introduction of legacy and having Katie Sagal as the mom, then to have that kind of connect to the end, like that is a point that did work. But yeah, I think there's a lot of logistics and realities that, it's a comedy film. They're going to ignore a lot of that stuff for the comedy and for the emotion. And in a film where there aren't as many issues as this film has, those are easy things to look over and still say this is a great film. In a film that already is having all these other issues with all these things, as these things start happening, it really kind of creates this snowball effect where you're just like, oh, there's another thing. And it does kind of, bring it down a bit.
Yeah, I think so too. So, okay. So can we talk then?
So anyway,
yeah, you want to talk?
That was all Haley Steinfeld.
That's all Haley Steinfeld. What did you think of the actual music and the bands that get highlighted?
I like it. I feel like it didn't click quite as well as the first film. I don't think, like, I'm trying to think if there was something. I kind of actually like their first performance. If there's something,
the one that goes crazy with the pants.
They all go crazy. Like, that was something that I was struggling like when they're singing for the old folks home or whatever. That one also goes crazy.
It does. It goes crazy.
Cynthia sets herself on fire. It's like, I don't know. A lot of these things felt like they were just they became incompetent this time, and so I don't think there was really anything that stood out for me that was incredibly exciting or felt new and fresh like the first film did.
There is a little bit of traditionalist a cappella when they go to the camp and they go back to basics. There's a medley of Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy, You Can't Hurry Love, Lady Marmalade, Mbop, and My Lovin', You're Never Gonna Get It. And it sort of takes us through time as the musical montage kind of goes through and they start playing all their water games. I really enjoy that. I enjoy that a lot because I think Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy is about as classic as you can get in terms of women's, vocal performance. You Can't Hurry Love, I like that because I sang it when I was in a cappella. Lady Marmalade, another classic, and I think they do it well. And so, it's a nice choice. We also get a lovely campfire rendition of When I'm Gone, which I think is a really nice homage to the last movie. So there are some things I think that really work, and the finale I think mashup again, the Run the World girls, the clapping silhouette thing that they do at the beginning and snapping and the snap and clap.
Yeah.
Snap and clap, ring and spring, Andy. I think I think that really functionally that works well for the performance.
Which is, it ends up also kind of being a blend of a lot of things we've heard from them over the course of the film.
Yeah.
Like, we'd already heard them do Lady Marmalade, We Belong,
sure.
And so they were pulling Flashlight, obviously, yeah. And so they were pulling a lot of things that they had kind of already touched on. And, it was fine. It is funny, though, that, like, of things that do stand out, like Cups is one of them, because it's like that was the standout from the last film and you didn't really top it in this film.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of frustrating. I do have a little trivia note for you that I thought was kind of fun.
Oh, good.
As I was watching the credits, the list of songs just kind of kept going on and on and on. So I went back and I watched it again and I counted. Any sense from you how many songs they I will say how many songs that they licensed and credited in the film, but any guess from you?
This is hard
because it's an a cappella movie. It's a movie about singing. It's going to be a higher number than normal.
40.
Higher.
Really? Like 60?
60.
Oh, was I right? Oh, outstanding.
60 songs.
I wouldn't.
They
that was me
had
trying to
60
swing out of the park.
songs.
Yeah, that's crazy.
There were 60 songs that they actually paid for and licensed and credited, listed in the credits at the end of this
that's
film.
a
I didn't go
lot
back and
of
check the
songs.
first film, but I imagine it was more because this is the sequel. They had more money, all that stuff.
Wow.
So I'll have to check that again on the third one and see where we stand. But I mean, going back to last season when we talked about Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which had, I think, 24 songs when we were talking about that film, and then to go, wow, this one has 60. Now, I know that's the mashup nature. You're blending 5 or 6 songs into the length of one song, but still, it's like,
like that riff off.
That's a lot of songs.
I mean, this riff off, I think, has more music in it than the first one, the riff off in the basement.
Probably because of the way that it's specifically designed with this kind of crazy competition that David Cross puts together. Where it's
was he a fun addition to this, the underground a cappella that he runs?
It was weird. David Cross has become this person. When he shows up, I always immediately go to Tobias Funke, and I wonder if everybody else does too, and they say, let's just figure out how we can kind of create the next Tobias Funke with this character. Because here he was playing, I have to read his name because it was so crazy,
yes.
Sir Willips Brightleysmore.
Yes.
Sir Willips Brightleysmore, who was a former, he's just a fan of a cappella, and so he's created this underground lair in his mansion where he has this competition. And I mean, it was again, in the realm of the leveling up, we're going to do a riff off, but now it's going to be in a creepy basement. Yeah. Okay, so that was what they came up with for it. It's fun. It was fine. It's interesting.
What was his name in the first movie? Like this is the leveling up of the fan who's still a part of the a cappella community, and now it's an adult.
Yeah, like
what's his name?
McLovin.
This is what McLovin becomes. This is what McLovin grows up to be. Sir Willips Brightleysmore. It's not unfunny. It's not unfunny, and the music again was good. But so much of that is down to, I think, Das Sound Machine, who is great, so great. And the real star, we've got Flula Borg and I can't think of her name.
Birgit Hjort Sorensen.
Yeah, but the real star is 80 Fitz, who is an unreal beatboxer that they put in this band. He's just crazy. And if you want to see some incredible stuff, search YouTube for 80 Fitz, Fitz, or Andrew Fitzpatrick. He is just great. And he's the one who at the end or at the riff off steps up where they do the beat off with the guy from the Tone Hangers, whose name also escapes me all of a sudden, but he was great.
I had no idea who that was, but he was pretty great.
Yeah, he's kind of a legend.
Was that Reggie Watts from the
Reggie
Tone
Watts?
Hangers?
Yep.
Comes out? Yeah.
Yep. That's it. Yeah, from
I noticed
from The Daily Show. That's how I found him.
I was like, oh, they replaced Donald Faison in the Tone Hangers. And as soon as Reggie Watts stepped out, I was like, oh, this is why. Because I doubt he could have done that.
Right.
That was funny.
So I really enjoy the music from Das Sound Machine. I think it's been mixed incredibly dynamically. It's huge, right? Everything is just big, and there's 60 people in the band. Like when they come out at the car show, it's unreal. How big they are. But I love it.
And to that sense, I have a hard time arguing that the Bellas can't have their legacy performers come back.
Well, but that's not the problem. The problem is doing it as a surprise. If you register your band as that big, then that's fine.
But maybe they did. Okay, so no prize. They registered it that way. It was just a surprise for the audience and for us, the audience. I
refuse to believe that secret wouldn't have gotten out. This
maybe
is the hill on which I will die.
That's right. You go right ahead. Can we also talk about John and Gail?
Yeah, sure.
I want to talk about them, and then I want to use this as a conversation to talk about some inappropriate, racial comedy and just some comedy that comes up into the realm of the story and how necessary it is. Because John and Gail, they're definitely amping up kind of the level of comedy, the back and forth that we had from the last film between the two. But there's also a lot more stuff that they're saying that just feels off color in a way where I'm like, gosh, I feel like they're going too far with some of the stuff they're saying.
Are you talking about the Thai lady boys? Is that the comment that you're specifically thinking about?
No. I all of it. There's nothing specific. It's like pretty much anything out of mostly John's mouth ends up being so crass and so wrong. And Gail has her reactions to it. Like when he's talking about like the women and the right to vote, and she's like, I don't necessarily agree with that. Like she has her comebacks and stuff, but largely like they're putting this stuff out there to be funny. It's not. And it ends up being frustrating. And that is also, speaking of things that are off color and in ways where it just feels inappropriate, like the stuff that they have with Flo, which I know you kind of talked about, you enjoyed, like that stuff feels like weirdly racially motivated to talk about. So like everything that comes out of her mouth is all about surviving as an illegal immigrant or something. And it just,
let me just say clearly, Andy, I don't feel good about it. I
love it.
I felt guilty every time I laughed.
Every time I laughed really loud. Yeah.
Well, and I wonder if in specifically the Elizabeth Banks bit, like, does it feel like she is somehow making it okay to put these words in John's mouth because every time he says something, she has a twist kind of is it John? Is that okay, John? No, it's not John. Like she has that under her breath kind of side of her cheek comment that feels like it's intended to like undercut John's perspective on the world and on women and on race. It doesn't make it okay for you? Does it feel like that could be part of her mission, her character's mission in this film?
Let's just say in the world of comedy, I know there has been a lot of back and forth about, we can't say stuff. People are policing the ways that we can say things and describe things. And it's no fun doing comedy anymore because of all the people who are keeping it from being, from allowing us to really do something that's edgy. And I get that there is a sense of edge when you try to say things that are, politically, incorrect and kind of just, things that are looking down on people in some ways. Like there's a whole world of comedy that kind of sprang from that.
Right.
And I understand from the world of comedians who want to use that sort of stuff. Like I get the frustration, but also I feel like there are smarter ways that you can go about with comedy. And I feel like this sort of comedy ends up feeling so like such an easy way to try to get a laugh because there are going to be people who are going to really find this stuff funny. And so, yeah, you're getting those people to laugh, but at what cost? Because I feel like it ends up, I don't know. I just feel like it ends up feeling like it, yes, she is negating what he has just said, but he has still said it. It's still put into the film, and it ends up feeling like it's not really ever dealt with. And so I don't know. I end up having a harder time with it, and especially because we have so much of that coming from Flo, and nobody ever does anything with that. I don't know.
Yeah, nobody ever does anything with that. Right.
I don't find that it works, and I find it harder to really deal with.
Yeah, I don't know. I still find it funny. I don't find it like that over. I guess I don't find it as over the top as maybe I should. I don't know. The problem is I keep laughing at it. I laughed at it when it was,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I still, it's still like, it's funny, but it's that funny that comes across. And, when you have people like, gosh, I'm forgetting who plays John. It's John Michael Higgins and Elizabeth Banks. When you have them saying this stuff, like it comes across funny. And I guess that's the line is like, is it funny just because I enjoy them kind of throwing these things out and the way they throw them out, like the way it's so casually kind of like handled in this conversation where it's almost like they're not tuned into anything. Like it's almost like he never hears anything she says. Like a lot of the laughs come from just the way that it ends up getting delivered, not even what they're saying, And so but once you think about what they're saying, that's when it becomes a little more problematic.
Well, and then
again, the bigger issue is the stuff with Flo, because she's saying these things that, I don't know, it ends up coming across in a way where it just seems a little more malicious.
The problem that I have with it, I think you described earlier for me, is that everything about this performance of them is the same stuff we get with the performances for Rebel Wilson and for all of the over-the-top stuff. Is this time John and Gail feel written to me. They feel like we had this thing that was kind of magical between these two performers, Elizabeth Banks and John Michael Higgins, and now we don't. Now it's totally scripted, and we intend the sideline, racial comments that at last time felt performed better. They felt performed more accidentally. This feels like a script, and it just doesn't. It lands like that to me. It's just not as pleasant.
Very much so. Very much so.
We do have my buddy Deke Sharon is back. He has a guest. He also did all the music. He's the music. What's the word? Director for this thing.
Okay.
Producer. For all
and I
the
saw him
music.
on there's a bonus Treblemakers performance of them performing Locked Out of Heaven. And he introduced it. I was like, oh, that's the guy that Pete was talking about. So
that's Deke. What'd you think of the choice? Because they recorded two things for the trebles in the beginning for their Welcome Back to the New Year performance. One was Lollipop, one was Locked Out of Heaven. What'd you think of the one they chose? You think there should have been more, and do you like it better?
It felt like a more fun song to perform at a freshman welcome. I thought Lollipop fit. It was just kind of, it has more of kind of that fun college sort of vibe. Locked Out of Heaven is a fine song. It didn't, it felt like it would have been a second song. It didn't feel like we needed to have it after Lollipop.
And we should say, I wish we'd had more songs from the trebles.
Yeah. I mean, they're fun to watch. The challenge is,
we've got to introduce the new antagonist.
Well, they're not a part of the story anymore. Like, other than the fact that Jesse is still together with Beca, and the fact that Benji is drawn to Emily, there's really no need to have them in here. And so to that end, they do feel they're like unnecessary. So
I struggled with that, again, unnecessary, and I think I think it works against the film not giving Jesse something else to do, sidelining him as still the couple with Beca, and making him stand outside the car and yell funny things is underplaying what he was capable of, and I really miss that. I think that could have been handled much better.
Not a lot there. He felt like the wife character in so many action movies.
Right.
And to that end, what? Maybe we need more like him to flip the scales a little bit.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
So
I guess, is there any other big things that you want to talk about, or any other specifics? I'm trying to think if there's any other points that we wanted to talk about.
Well, you wanted to make a note of some other Elizabeth Banks work, specifically a real high point in her career, and that was... she hasn't directed much. I think after this, she's only directed the Charlie's Angels reboot. Mm-hmm.
Reboot? Is it I guess it's a reboot, right?
I don't know how to talk about that. There aren't proper words to talk about that. Multi-universal.
But it's the newest one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was the Charlie's Angels TV show. Then there were the two films that Drew Barrymore was behind. And now this is the one that she directed that had Kristen Stewart in it. And so that was her version. That was her directorial follow-up to this. And now I guess she's doing Cocaine Bear, which is her newest film. But before this, other than her short film she did in 2011, there was a little project that she was involved in that I did see theatrically. I don't know if you did, but yes, Movie 43. She did direct one of the segments of that notorious film.
Wow. And
I don't think it was as bad as some of the critics said. I mean, yes, it's terrible, but it's kind of designed to be terrible. It was a pretty raunchy, raunchy comedy of short little short bits. And hers was called Middle School Date. And I don't really remember it. The description: Nathan and Amanda are watching television after school at his house as their first middle school date. When they begin to kiss, his older brother Mikey enters the living room and makes fun of them. Amanda then discovers she is menstruating and tries to hide it. When Nathan sees blood on her pants, he panics and believes her to be bleeding to death. He causes a debacle, later including Nathan and Mikey's father, Stephen, and Amanda's father. Amanda calls them out on their stupidity, embarrassed to know that she's getting her first period in front of them, and they don't know what to do about it. When she leaves with her father, Nathan yells that the process of keeping the lining of her internal organs intact by inserting his erect phallus into her vagina is much too complicated, and Mikey agrees. Steve cheers them up by farting in front of them. As Mikey goes to the bathroom, Nathan and Steve watch a game on television which has a very graphic Tampax commercial in which a girl gets eaten by a shark due to her menstruating.
Oh my God.
I don't remember it.
You know,
maybe that says everything I
shark,
need about that. Like,
it's everything else. I get it's fine, but the shark bit, really, the shark.
Her segment had Christopher Mintz-Plasse, so there's her connection to McLovin. Chloe Grace Moretz, Jimmy Bennett, Patrick Warburton, and Matt Walsh. That's the cast.
Matt Walsh.
Her
Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh is in Jess Plus None, our network family, Mandy Fabian's new film.
Oh,
yeah.
Very cool.
Isn't that fun? Matt Walsh.
So anyway, Elizabeth Banks, and I believe she's in one of them too, if I recall. She is in Beazle, James Gunn's short.
Okay. Can I change gears briefly? I would like to play the IMDb game, and I wonder if you could just guess who I want to play it with you in the cast. Can you think of somebody?
Okay, so it's not Elizabeth Banks, because I was thinking you were just going that route. From the cast, well, is it Anna Kendrick?
It is not. It's Snoop Dogg, Andy. I'd like to play the IMDb game with Snoop Dogg. First, can you just give me... Go ahead. What do you got? Top 4. They're all feature films. They're all feature films that he is known for. Thank you, IMDb, for actually doing that, because he's been in a lot of TV, so many, podcast performances are listed, and of course all of his music videos, which are all listed in his actor biography. And so while you're thinking of the top 4, I would like you also to just come up with a ballpark number of how many actor credits you think he has. And of course this accounts for he's been in many TV series where he is in multiple episodes, all of his music videos, it's inclusive.
The question is, how many of those performances are cameos like this where he's just playing himself? Because I feel like when I think of Snoop Dogg, it always is thinking of him as Snoop Dogg in a cameo in something where he's just randomly meeting somebody or talking to somebody. Like
in his top 4, all of his character credits are character credit names. None of them are named Snoop Dogg playing Snoop Dogg.
Okay, that eliminates this movie.
This may be the only 4.
Yeah. You know what? He was in... what was the one that... I watched this recently because Letterboxd posted a list of movies that have had the highest increase in their star ratings since they started, like over the last decade plus. Not necessarily like raising it up to 5 stars or something, but something that has been reappraised and more people find favorable now. And Snoop Dogg was in one of them. And of course, now the name is completely escaping me, but it's like the gangster ghost story or something. And there's a flashback, and I know he was in it, and that was kind of his big thing. Is that one of them?
No.
And what's the name?
I don't know, but it's not one of them. I'm going to give you some of his co-stars.
Oh, okay.
And see if you can riff based on co-stars. So the first co-star is Denzel.
He wasn't in American Gangster, was he?
He was not. Same movie, co-star, Scott Glenn.
Oh, Denzel and Scott Glenn. I want to go to the submarine movie Crimson Tide, but I don't.
No, but then you'd realize that another co-star, Ethan Hawke, is not in Crimson Tide.
Oh, God, was Scott Glenn in whatever that's called?
Training Day.
Training Day.
Yes, he was. Okay. How about the?
Oh, he was the chief of something or something like that, right?
Snoop Dogg played Blue in Training Day. How about the next one is an animated feature. Co-stars Ryan Reynolds, Paul Giamatti, and Maya Rudolph. Snoop plays a character named Smooth Move.
This is so much harder than it should be. Why am I blanking on animated films with Paul Giamatti?
Uh-huh.
Like that really throws me. And I'm sure I've seen it, but
I actually thought it was quite good. It's the story of a very, very slow character who gets to go very, very fast. You might say turbo speed.
oh, it was this. Yeah, it was the snail movie Turbo, right?
Sam Jackson.
I forgot
that's
Paul
right.
Giamatti was like the one who.
Yeah. How about this one? This one is Ving Rhames, Tyrese Gibson, Taraji P. Henson, Alexandra Wright. Movie is a 6.4 on IMDb, came out in 2001. And in this one...
Baby Boy, is it?
It is Baby Boy. Snoop actually, he's got, he's on the poster. Like Snoop is...
Yeah,
it's
him and Tyrese.
Him and Tyrese, absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Last, Andy, 2004. I don't even know how to give this one away. It's actually a 6.1 on IMDb.
What year? 2004?
2001. And it could be a reboot with a pair of people who have been in movies before together. Ben Stiller is one of them.
Oh, is it? No, it's not that one. I was going to say.
When you're thinking
Starsky and
of
Hutch,
it is Starsky and
No.
Hutch.
It
It
is
is Starsky and
You
Hutch.
said 2001. That wasn't 2001, was it?
No, I said 2004. Baby Boy was 2001.
I know, but then I said, did you say 2004? You said no, 2001, and that's.
You said 2005, and I said 2004. I think we should go to the tape. Go back to the tape.
I will. Trust me. That's fine. It's fine.
Todd Phillips directed Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah.
Snoop played.
Do it.
Do you remember who he played?
Do it. No, but I just remember Ben Stiller. Do it.
Do it. Huggy
That's all I
Bear.
remember from that stupid
Huggy
movie. Huggy Bear. Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Now that you say it.
Yep. There you go, Snoop Dogg. And do you have a ballpark for how many total actor credits he has?
I'm gonna
say Brian is in our chat room. If you're a member, truestory.fm/TNR membership, you could be a member and watch along in our live stream. And Brian clocked 170. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, Andy, 170 is low.
Oh, what? I was going to say that was way too high. I was going to say something more like 60, but if that's...
No, you're going to be...
I don't know, 230 then.
How about 278?
But, I mean, what is that clocking?
Everything he's done.
So...
Day shift?
No. But when you say everything,
film,
is it like, is it a single episode?
Music video, short video shorts, TV series, F is for Families, and 3 episodes of that. I don't know if that counts as just F is for Family or all the individual episodes, but Addams Family 2.
That makes it hard.
He's got a bunch of like feature stuff. I'm not going to go through it right now to tell you how many, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
Snoop,
Interesting. All right.
He's quite a guy.
Busy.
Yeah.
Busy career. Yeah.
All right. I think I don't have anything else to say about Pitch Perfect 2.
Yeah, I think that's it. So we'll be right back. But first, our credits.
Minds thinking that our time has just passed us by. Do we ever get enough time? I don't know.
The next reel is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. Music by Milano, Oriole Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show.
I don't wanna be a friend. Think I love you early.
All right, Andy, how to do it award season?
It did okay for itself. It had 9 wins with 17 other nominations. At the Grammys, it was nominated for Best Compilation Soundtrack for Visual Media, but lost to Glenn Campbell, I'll Be Me. At the Guild of Music Supervisors Awards, it was nominated for Best Music Supervision for a film budgeted over $25 million, but lost to Straight Outta Compton. And it was nominated for Best Song or Recording created for a film for the song Flashlight. That lost to See You Again in Furious 7, which is absolutely the better song. Talk about a song that I will forever sing and love. And should have honestly won an Oscar. But anyway, moving on. MTV Movie and TV Awards. It won for Ensemble Cast and Best Kiss for Rebel Wilson and Adam Devine. It was nominated for Best Female Performance for Anna Kendrick, but lost to Charlize Theron in Mad Max Fury Road. Can't argue that one. And nominated for Best Comedic Performance for Rebel Wilson, but lost to Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool. Can't argue that one either. And then over at the Teen Choice Awards, it won for Choice Movie Comedy, for Comedy Actor, for Skylar Astin, for Comedy Actress, Anna Kendrick, for Movie Chemistry, Kendrick and Snow, interestingly. I thought that was kind of an interesting little twist in the chemistry. So,
Yeah.
And then for Hissy Fit, for Anna Kendrick. And I was like, Hissy Fit? What is the Hissy Fit in the film? I'm not really sure. But she beat out Charlie Day in Horrible Bosses 2, Reese Witherspoon in Hot Pursuit, Lewis Black in Inside Out, and Bryce Dallas Howard in Jurassic World, and Melissa McCarthy in Spy. So I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what they specifically are calling out for her Hissy Fit. Thoughts? What is the Hissy Fit?
I don't know what the Hissy Fit is. I'm not a good
Well,
arbiter
it was a winning
of
Hissy Fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a winning Hissy Fit.
Yeah.
Rebel Wilson was nominated for Best Actress in a Comedy, but lost to Anna Kendrick. Best Lip Lock between Wilson and Divine, but they lost to the Divergent series Insurgent between Shailene Woodley and Theo James. Best Scene Stiller, Adam Devine, lost to Chris Evans for Avengers Age of Ultron. And Haley Steinfeld was nominated for that same category, also losing to Chris Evans. Last but not least, Best Song from a Movie or TV Show for Flashlight, also lost to See You Again for Furious 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. It's fine. That's fine. Did it make any money? I am assuming it paid off, since there's a third one.
Oh boy. Wow. Did it ever. For Banks' takeover of the franchise, she got a handsome bump in the budget, up to $29 million, or $31.2 million in today's dollars. The movie opened May 15th, 2015, opposite a big competitor, Mad Max Fury Road, and believe it or not, this took the number one spot. Mad Max Fury Road was never able to get to the number one spot, weirdly, probably because of its R rating. This was the third biggest PG-13 comedy opening of all time, behind The Simpsons movie and Austin Powers and Goldmember. Yeah, baby. This film did great at the box office, surpassing the total box office of the first film in just 5 days.
Wow.
5 days.
Wow.
It beat the budget. Yeah. So, yeah, crazy. This film stayed in the top 10 for 6 weeks, went on to earn $184.3 million domestically and $102.9 million internationally, for a total gross of $310.2 million in today's dollars, making it the highest grossing musical comedy of all time, beating out School of Rock. And also, it had the third greatest musical debut ever, behind live action Beauty and the Beast and the Lorax, of all things.
What?
Yeah, I know. I don't understand why that's on the list, but it is. That lands this film with an adjusted profit per finished minute of just over $2.4 million, a huge increase from the first film.
Well, I guess good for them. I'm not sure I can see it all on screen. It doesn't. I guess maybe it looks like it's budgeted. They actually go to Copenhagen?
Well, they at least are running through the streets in Copenhagen. Yeah. I don't know if any of that final performance, I assume that was all shot in LA or Georgia or wherever I think they were filming in Georgia still. So I can't imagine. I feel like they probably just flew everybody over there to get some shots of them running around.
Most of the budget's in the 60 licensed songs, I'm sure.
Well, I'm sure that's a chunk for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for Pitch Perfect 2. And now you still haven't watched Pitch Perfect 3, so we have that little bit of anticipation leading up to our next recording session.
Yeah, this was a bit of a disappointment after the last one. I didn't love the last one, but I was hoping that this one would at least kind of achieve the same level for me, and it didn't. So, I have to walk out of it feeling like they didn't know what to do with it. They just wanted to make a sequel and make more money, and that's where we sit.
That's too bad. I also didn't like it as much as the first one, but I still am wearing my acapella colored glasses, and that will likely impact my Letterboxd review coming up next.
All right. Well, we will be right back for our ratings, but first, here is the trailer for next week's movie, the conclusion of the franchise, Pitch Perfect 3.
If I can't contact you, I can't.
She's right there. The Barden Bellas, an unlikely group of not men who somehow managed to win at something that didn't have to do with baking.
I can hear you.
They've graduated college, have spread their wings, and are attempting to fly.
Papaya Players Delight? With a shot of white privilege?
Hopefully not becoming the failures we all expect them to be.
I feel really good about where I'm at right now. I'm trying to get into vet school. Fingers crossed.
Where are they now?
My name is Fat Amy Winehouse, so let's get cracking.
I quit my job.
You got fired?
No, I quit. It's fine. Oh, come on. This is an overreaction. I would do anything to sing with you guys again. Anything. You guys, every year the USO puts on this performance to support the troops in Europe. What if I could get us an invite?
Yeah, I've suddenly got a bunch of free time, so... Hell yeah!
Here we go. It's my turn to make history.
Guys, we've never competed against bands that actually have instruments, so what's the plan?
I'm coming up, so you better get this party started. I'm coming out.
Oh, you guys just sing other people's songs, like karaoke. Karaoke? No. That's so cute.
I'm Calamity. This is Serenity, Veracity, and Charity.
If I joined your group, I could be obesity. So.
Here we go. When I'm down, they'll remember me.
Another day on stage for the Bellas. This is their big plummet
They're fade out.
into nothingness.
You sure about this?
Have I ever let you down?
All the time. You're very unreliable. It's like one of the hallmarks of your personality.
Are you not remembering all the times I've been awesome?
Let Taka finish this. I love you, awesome nerds!
Won't stop till we let you.
Try to have some dignity.
Yeah, well, we don't do anything with dignity, okay?
They really do need to join the workforce.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about Letterboxd. If you want to get your own pro or patron membership on Letterboxd, the best social network for movie lovers, just use the discount code NEXTREEL or visit thenextreel.com/letterboxd. You'll get your 20% off, and that works for renewals as well. And that means, Andy, what are you going to do? You were at 3.5 stars for the first one. Where do you go from here? It's like you didn't leave yourself enough room.
Oh, there's plenty of room down below, Pete. There's plenty of room. It still is enjoyable enough. There are just a lot of issues. So I feel like 2 stars. And I don't think I'm going to give it a heart.
Ooh,
2 stars. No.
That's the burn. Sick Letterboxd burn, Andy. I'm at 3 stars. It's and a heart. I'm giving it a heart because even though it has all the problems, it also has 80 Fits and Das Sound Machine and some more great a cappella music that overall I still like. And I listen to the soundtrack. I listen to all the soundtracks.
Pentatonics is in it.
And
they barely get to do anything. That was very disappointing that you see like 3 shots of them in a montage at the end.
What we do get on the soundtrack, you do get the full version of the song that what's the song that they do in that
Any Way You Want
It. That they're in the championship medley, but they also I think get the I think they have their full version on one of the versions of Any Way You Want It. It's on the special edition. You get their full version of that song. That's where it is.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and just to call out the others that are part of that,
yep.
Philharmonic, the Cantasticos, the Sing Box, and Penn Masala.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they did pull in a bunch of real a cappella groups to kind of be a part of that, that sequence.
And the Green Bay Packers. They didn't make it to Worlds, but should have.
The Green Bay Packers. All right.
3 stars and a heart.
Well,
that's what I got.
Yeah. All right. Well, and just as a reminder, thenextreel.com/letterboxd to get your patron or pro membership, and it does work for renewals as well. And remember, if you'd like to hear these episodes without the ads and before everybody else, you can learn more about becoming a member and support the show at thenextreel.com/membership. So what did you think about Pitch Perfect 2? We would love to know. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community where we will be talking about the movie this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
The hot lady from Das Sound Machine was my gay awakening. We did talk about that. That was some of the really funny humor of it. Was
Anna Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick's response to her, I thought, was really funny.
That was okay. Setups and payoffs of things from one film to the next. Like this was a side though of Beca that wasn't developed in the first film that suddenly became a weird thing throughout this one, where like even when she is applying or not applying, but accepting the position at the internship, like she is turned into somebody that can't can't not say things and then is always instantly regretful of the things that have just come out of her mouth. That wasn't set up in the first film, was it?
No,
am I forgetting something?
I don't think so, especially because, like, look at the response she had when Chloe hit her up in the shower. Like, you feel like maybe that was her kind of first experience with, oh my God, maybe I kind of like this.
I just felt like that was this franchise's chicken bit from Back to the Future. Like, let's introduce this thing with Anna Kendrick where she's going to constantly say things that she didn't want to say and then instantly regret it, because it happens all through this.
Yeah, it really
and it's
does.
funny. Like when she is dealing with the lady of Das Sound Machine, like that was pretty funny. But it does happen an awful lot in this movie.
Yeah. It was funny.
All right.
Letterboxd giveth, Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth. I feel like I should go first since I'm
okay.
A little more on the negative side than yours.
I think you should. That's good.
Okay. I've got a 2.5 by Samantha, who still gave it a heart and had this to say. Do the writers know that there's a difference between satire and plain old racism?
Apparently not.
Yeah.
So, David Ehrlich? David Ehrlich, the reviewer?
Yeah. Best friend who hasn't met me yet.
Do you ever wonder, like, when you see a review, you think, oh, yeah, his Letterboxd account got hacked?
There are those times.
So,
isn't he the one who has unabashed love for Magic Mike 2?
I think he does. I think he thinks it's a perfect movie. And so Pitch Perfect 2, maybe that shouldn't surprise us, but this is his brief review. A deeply, deeply funny movie. Not always, often uproariously so, but consistently in a way I haven't seen in ages. Almost every line lands, though the ones that don't tend to miss by a while. Love how irreverent it is, how loose it plays, how mismashed it is. Mishmashed? Which I don't think I've ever seen that word written. How mishmash.
Like mishmash.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've heard it. I know what it is. Like, I'm not grew up in a barn or something, but I know it. Anyway, how mishmashed it is together from a dozen different threads. Elizabeth Banks is for real and a half. She's for real and a half, Andy.
Wow.
There's a whole half of
I think
a real
Ehrlich's
thing.
in love.
That was I think, like, he was is this a sponsored review? Is it somehow paid off?
Did you see a special thanks to David Ehrlich at the end of the credits, maybe? You should check.
Yeah, I don't care for it. I don't care for it like David Ehrlich does. Thanks, David. I mean, Letterboxd. It is hard to believe we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
Oh, you're telling me. Producing this show week after week is so much fun, but it does require a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you, and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
The Originals page at thenextreel.com/originals links to the source material from all of our adapted film discussions. Purchasing through our links support the show at no extra cost to you.
In Season 12, the focus was big franchises and series. We covered both Paddington films, adapted from the beloved children's book character created by Michael Bond.
Oh, I love those films so much.
Hugh Grant is perfect.
For our Pitch Perfect series, the first film was adapted from Mickey Rapkin's nonfiction book about collegiate a cappella competitions.
It's like a short story of my life, literally. I lived college a cappella.
Sing it, brother.
I lived college a cappella.
I didn't mean literally.
You know who you're talking to, right? The Twilight Saga dominated the season with 5 films adapted from Stephenie Meyer's vampire romance novels, Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and the 2 Breaking Dawn parts.
Dominated with awkward romance and nonsense logic is more like it.
That too.
Another Thin Man brought us back to Dashiell Hammett's only Thin Man sequel based on other Hammett material, The Farewell Murder, that wasn't just based on the characters from the first film.
We talked about Trainspotting and its sequel, T2 Trainspotting, adapted from Irvine Welsh's novels.
I hate the sequel's name.
I do too.
And the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy adapted from J.R.R. Tolkien's epic fantasy series.
Love these.
Extended editions all the way, baby.
Plus, all the Mission Impossible films based on the 1960s TV series.
And we've still got at least one more to go.
Members got to hear us chat about The Hustler and The Color of Money, adapted from Walter Tevis's books.
Get all of these books and more at our originals page, thenextreel.com/originals.
Start your next read from the movies we've covered at thenextreel.com/originals.